we can improve our foundation, our concrete works in waterlogged areas. Okay, because most times you see that construction works are being is being challenged by water. Okay, in some terrains where it's predominantly waterlogged. Okay, there you discover that the watering will be very difficult in that area. The option you have is to advise your client to, shift the commencement of that project possibly to dry season, so that the water level, the water table in that area will drop. That is the piezometric level of the groundwater will drop. Now when it drops, you see that the area will be dry. Okay, there won't be that challenge of of water trying to interfere with the construction process. Okay, but basically on the other hands, there are clients that want the construction work to commence even at wet season. Now at that instance, you have to devise means on how to execute especially your concrete works. Now most times you see that when you do your dry mix, which is what in our local palace they call dry casting, you see that when you do that, the component, that is the substructure, will lose certain level of integrity, because honeycomb, formation of honeycomb will be there. Okay, because as you pour in those concrete mix, the so-called dry mix, there will be separation. Okay, there will be separation. You see that the binding effect will not be much in that mix. Okay, so basically it is important that we do the right thing, okay, to ensure that our foundation gets the required strength, because the longevity of a structure is dependent on the solidity of the foundation. All right, in most areas, in most regions, okay, they are more of marshy lands, present in that area. Even some cases, road construction, you see that they spend more, okay, to do sand filling of those areas, to enable the construction of a flexible pavement. Now you see that the sand filling of that place can take up to a height of 1.2 meters, 1.5 meters, to get it to a considerable level. Okay, all right. So those areas that are waterlogged, swampy areas, there is need to pay critical attention, while carrying out construction work in those areas. Okay, now also I've talked about land reclamation. Okay, land reclamation, you can dredge in sand. Okay, now when you're doing that aspect, okay, it means that the time for the construction will be shifted, because when you dredge in sand into a swampy area, you give it some time for it to consolidate. Okay, because the consolidation of that soil is very important, because in the process of consolidation, that is when the strength bearing power of that soil will be enhanced. Like I said earlier, when you inject sand into a swampy area, you see that that sand will over time interact with the parent soil. All right, with that weak parent soil. Okay, you see that the sand, in the course of that interaction over the years, over a period of time, you see that a new texture of soil will be formed. Now that new soil that is formed will be, in terms of stable, it will be more stable than the previous marshy soil. Okay, so but if you are adopting that process, it means that it will take some time. Okay, because consolidation of sand, in terms of sand filling, it takes time so that it can be able to blend with the parent soil and regenerate a new better and stable soil, all right, for construction purpose. Now in some cases where the timing will not will be considered lengthy, that means in such a terrain in such a terrain where you have that in such a swampy terrain, there is need to adopt your pile foundation. Okay, because the pile foundation is very, very ideal for swampy areas. Okay, areas that are predominantly compressible soil. Now the essence of the pile foundation is that the pile now will help to transfer that anticipated load to a more firm and stable strata below. Okay, it will cut across, the pile now will cut across several layers of soil, okay, until it will get to a more stable soil that can be able to receive that a large magnitude of load. Okay, so mainly that is why in bridge construction, okay, water body, pile foundation is recommendable, because what it does is that it will cut across several layers, okay, to a more stable strata that can be able to carry the anticipated load. So that is why it's important for, before construction, there is need to carry out a geotechnical investigation of that terrain, okay, so that you can be able to understand several variables as regards to that soil. In terms of the bearing capacity of that soil will be known. Then the water table of that area will also be known, and some other, if there are presence of some, chemical elements, all right, that will pose adverse effect on the substructure. Okay, because there are some cases where we adopt pile foundation, and after the installation of the reinforcement cage, okay, in the pile, and the concreting work is completed, you see that when the concrete is expected to attain its strength, okay, at 7 days, you see that the concrete will not look as if it has any form of strength. Okay, now most times you see that there are some elements that are found within that terrain, that swampy terrain, that that have effect on the hydration process of that concrete, because it is the hydration of concrete or the hydration of cement that facilitates the hardening of that concrete. Once there is limitation in hydration, okay, it means that the strength gaining process will be impeded. Okay, so most times you see that when you